Good evening. I'm Daniel Goodkind, proud grandson of Bob and member of IPF Fatigued New York Steering Committee. But more on IPF in just a bit. As a young boy, indelible in my mind are numerous photos on my grandpa's desk of him shaking hands with important people like Nelson Mandela, George Bush, Bill Clinton, and other politicians. I remember being confused and asking my sister, how does Grandpa know to use Photoshop when he could hardly get the printer to work? She laughed and told me the photos were real. As I've grown older, I've come to appreciate that my grandpa engages in conversations not only with famous leaders, but with all walks of life in his continued perseverance of Tikkun Olam, making the world a better place. Being Bob's grandson has many perks. One of my favorites is the open invitation to join any of my grandparents' world travels. So when my grandparents invited me on a trip to Europe and Israel for American Jewish Committee's 100th anniversary, I took them up on this offer. At the time, my grandpa was the president of AJC. Our schedule was jam-packed, full of conversations with representatives from religious groups and international politicians. After one of these meetings, we boarded the bus to our next destination. At 13 years old, I wasn't always sure where we were or who we were meeting with, but as we approached the Vatican, I finally found something I had recognized. As we entered the building, we traversed crowds and ducked ropes, which I must admit felt pretty cool. As we entered the last room, I watched as my grandpa shook hands with and went on to lead a discussion with Pope Benedict XVI. This gathering was both exciting and admittingly intimidating, given that Pope Benedict XVI was raised in Germany during the 1930s, where he was forced to participate in the Hitler Youth Group. After introductions and a couple of stories, I watched as my grandfather let his true passions emerge. He enlisted the support of his team, and they inquired politely about the Pope's stance on Israel. They continued to ask the world leader difficult questions. Despite being the first group of Jews ever to meet with this Pope, Bob remained engaged, calm, and always thoughtful. I hadn't been this impressed with my grandfather since he helped fund a go-kart for me and my siblings a few years earlier. The meeting was a great success. The next day I was ecstatic when my grandpa showed me that we were featured on the front page of the Vatican newspaper, shaking the Pope's hand. I thought to myself, hey, I may have been the first Jewish boy ever to have shaken hands with Pope Benedict. Grandpa Bob is a great listener. He has strengthened his conviction and especially loves the opportunity to listen and learn from those with different viewpoints or life experiences. This became especially apparent as we traveled to the Gaza border. We first heard from an Israeli soldier, a few years younger than I am now. This young man recounted the challenges he faces on a daily basis, balancing the security of his country and the freedom of the surrounding people. Bob also listened as a Gazan citizen described the challenges of his daily commute. Even when there was an attack outside the walls of the checkpoint and the Lebanon war had just ended, my grandpa did not stray from his vision for Israel, a democratic and Jewish state. On the last leg of the trip, we visited Berlin. We were walking through the city and my grandfather paused. He told me, Dan, this is the Brandenburg Gate. At its inception, it represented triumph. During the very early years of my life, it represented the height of Nazi power. In my 30s, it represented the division between East and West, and today, it stands as a testament to what we can achieve. Grandpa Bob has taken a similar, thoughtful, and patient approach with the future of Israel. He is confident in the potential for a two-state solution, but is equally sure it will not come overnight or without struggle. He feels a tremendous amount of satisfaction to take part in the small steps that get us closer to these goals on a daily basis. This perspective, shared by Israel Policy Forum, is what drew me to the new and exciting program called IPF Fatigued. In less than a year, IPF Fatigued has engaged with over 1,000 young professionals with active chapters in Chicago, DC, LA, and New York. Through this experience, I've had the opportunity to learn from speakers and leaders who help to engage me and my peers in pragmatic conversations about Israel. They've helped us understand the many factors that affect its current geopolitical environment. All of these issues represent challenges, but like my grandfather, we remain confident in our passion for Israel and the important work that lies ahead. Grandpa Bob, you've traveled the world. You've spoken thoughtfully and passionately with world leaders. You're one of the most generous people I know. You're incredibly hardworking. He's still a full-time attorney, a great leader to the Jewish community, and you make a pretty cool grandfather. You inspire me to read every day, to listen, to be humble, to be diplomatic, but to be strong in my conviction. We have learned from your success and will continue to strive to do better each and every day. Thank you, and I love you, Grandpa Bob.